Is it just quiet or is my sound not working? Yeah, I can't hear you. Dang
Cool, I'm muted. We're starting.
it. Cool.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Kyle from Fantasy Forge Studios, and we are back with session 19 of Adventures Middle-earth Eriador Adventures. And we are joined by two of our players tonight. Unfortunately, Toby Australian was not able to join us today, but we are joined by both Cole and Dane. So that is very exciting. Cole, don't you even worry. We were just starting. It's good. How would you know?
It was the
right?
timing.
It's all good. But you sound good. You look good. You've got your nice dipper hat on, and we're ready.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Without further ado, Dane, why don't you go ahead and introduce your character?
Hey everyone, my name is Dane, or Forge Share Fantasy Forge Studios. I play the character Valinith, son of Morbith. He is a high elf of Rivendell. His class is Scholar class, so think of like healer, kind of. There's not a lot of healing in Lord of the Rings, but they're really good with like apothecary and herbal remedies. And they have some magic heals too, at least magic in the way that Tolkien made magic. Very rare, but they have the ability to do that. He uses a bow, his father's bow of the Last Alliance, which is pretty cool. And he just recently got proficiency with broadsword as well. So he in his last holiday phase, he went and got proficiency and got an elven broadsword. So
And literally,
doesn't
right
plan on
stream, we just put it into the put it into his character
Yeah.
sheet.
Yeah, I mean, definitely do not plan, because the bow's way better. Do not plan on using the broadsword, but just in case I get into conflict, at least I have the bow to be able to,
I'm actually
the
curious.
broadsword to be able to use.
I have a question. So, Cole, you probably know the D&D system a little bit better. When you have proficiency with the weapon, you add your proficiency bonus to the weapon's attack,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing, Dane, is your attack should be a little bit higher. So it should be +3. So you should have a +6 on your broadsword attack.
Broadsword. Okay.
So I'm gonna have
Good
to
to know.
go in
I
and
will-
figure out how to add that proficiency with rapiers on the actual item. But just add 3 if you do have to use it between now and next session. So
Sounds good. I'll keep that in mind.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, he's pretty cool. He is not a Lord of the Rings movie elf who's all dour and sad. He is the book version, where he is ganky. He's got lots of energy. He says huzzah. He doesn't sing very many songs, but he's pretty cool.
none of
yeah.
your characters have died, and the one companion that did die, you sang Dust in the Wind for them.
I did sing Dust in the Wind for them. But, I mean, aside from that, he's pretty cool. And he's excited to be in a party with a freaking sick Dunedain, Kyrian, and his good buddy Theodric from the last campaign. And you can't forget the man himself from Dol Amroth, freaking Caliph here. So he likes his party, and he feels like he doesn't have to be in the front lines and whacking people with his broadsword. He can just sit back and fall out of trees. So it's good.
Heck yeah.
Our next character is played by Cole, which is Kyrian.
Hi everyone. I play Kyrian, son of Durafin, and so I just finished reading The Fellowship. And I think, because they use Dunedain without the I, and Dunedain with the I, or Dine with the I. And I think the difference is Dunedain or Dunedain is with the I is plural, referring to the whole
Oh,
group, and
that makes sense.
Dunedain is singular.
Whoa, I didn't
Is that
actually
like
pick
Lieutenant
that
Dan?
Yeah. Well, because they call Aragorn the Dunedain, but then like when they refer to the group, it's Dunedain with the I. Because I was like,
Wait,
wait a
okay.
second, I
Did
thought there was
you
nine.
read it or did you audio book it?
I read it.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I was like, maybe it's a matter of like pronunciation. Because I did the one that was on my audiobook. I have
Andy-
the
Andy
Andy
Sears.
Serkis one.
Oh, nice.
So the one who voices Gollum.
Yeah.
So that's always cool when Gollum pops up. But I didn't notice that, like when I was like
Yeah.
reading. I don't know if maybe he read it all as Dunedain, but or Dunedain or
maybe.
whatever. But Dunedain. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very subtle.
At least I think so.
That's
'cause
very subtle.
Aragorn's the Dunedain, like the Dunedain, like the one and only.
Lieutenant Dan.
I was gonna grab my
Nice.
book, but it's too far away. So anyway, I'm a Dunedain of the Dunedain, Rangers of the North. Kyrian, that is, and yeah, he's a ranger, so he helps protect the free folk of Eriador from orcs and trolls and goblins. Oh my, and other enemies allianced with the Shadow of Mordor, or just Shadow, I guess. It's not necessarily Mordor at this point, but yeah. So that's kind of his goal. Sworn an oath to do so, and his fiancée died, which is sad for him. She
How
was an
long
elf.
ago was that?
As old as Aragorn is.
Yeah. So 13.
Been
14?
16.
16?
16.
Yeah.
Been brooding for 16 years. You become
Yeah.
a stone cold killer
Yeah. It's true.
because of it. It's good. Nothing like motivation, right?
I know. But yeah, he is kind of one of the higher up people, kind of in charge of the Dunedain during this period, and trying to thwart. I forget his name. Orc man. Mormog. There you go. Sorry. So yeah, and also I realized that the guy we're seeking out. Hold on. Hold for dramatic effect. Thought I had it written
I got my
down.
notes too.
Oh shoot. Aeger, sailor of
Eager.
Eager. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Eager the Beaver. Yeah, the merchant.
Maybe I'm
Mhm.
wrong. I thought he was maybe in. I don't know. They referred to a lot of elves with similar names in the book, and I was like, wait a second, that's
No,
who we're
so
looking
Eager is
for.
actually not an elf. He's a human
Ah.
from a place called Londair, which is like south. It's like basically.
Are you
like,
talking
take
Gilder?
Yeah, Gildor.
Maybe.
Yeah, Gildor is the guy that Frodo, and Sam meet.
Well, that dude, but they mentioned some like elves, and one of them was specifically a fisherman in the Grey Havens, but I don't remember. Hold on. Hold, please. I'm just gonna grab the book, and if I find it, I'll let you know.
Círdan.
Círdan.
the
Yeah.
Círdan the
Círdan
I'm
the
taking
ship.
notes recently.
Yeah,
I'm really trying my best.
that was the one. Círdan.
Yeah.
He's got. a
Has he been
beard
mentioned?
in this campaign?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's actually who you're going to go talk to is Círdan.
Yeah. That's what I meant. I don't know why I wrote down Eager. Well, I don't know
Eager's
why-
Eager's the
also-
merchant we're looking for.
Yeah, you're also looking for a merchant named Eager in
Write down Círdan.
the Grey Havens as well.
Got it. Cool. Círdan the shipwright. Yeah, but I read Círdan in the book, and I was like, what?
Yeah, he's a cool being. He's one of the oldest living elves still in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And he has even stronger power of foresight than even Elrond has. Plus, he also is one that's in charge of one of the last two known surviving Palantir. And so he has that too, in the White Towers that are just down to the south.
So does he talk to Sauron and Saruman through him?
No, he doesn't really use it because it was Elendil's Palantir, and the only other one that exists right now is in Gondor. Well, that is known to exist is in Gondor. So
Nice.
yeah, crazy, right?
So yeah, that's Kyrian. He's looking for a cool sword so that he can smack Mormog and send him back from the pits from whence he came.
And
A long way to send him.
Now that we're on the topic of the Palantir, though, like when Cole, you get to the Return of the King, like there's people always think, especially like the way that like Denethor, like Lord Denethor is portrayed in the movies, that he's just kind of like this like cowardly like dude, but he's like one of the only people that have been able to like in the history of Middle Earth that have been able to resist the temptations of Sauron. So he doesn't get corrupted when looking into the Palantir by Sauron, which is interesting. So he's kind of a
Probably
Chad.
did.
No,
Isn't
Well,
that
he
like what his
also-
final downfall was? He
No,
like
no,
gives into like despair.
well, he was in despair, but like he didn't like give himself over like Saruman did. Like that was like the whole shtick.
Oh,
And
I
so
see.
he was in despair, but he threw his sons into like the fray in order to destroy. But he's a man of like stern will, I guess, is like how they
Nice.
explain him.
Yeah, he's also a human, even though he's the steward of Gondor. He also has like foresight, doesn't he, to a certain extent?
Yeah,
Or, like,
most of it comes through his
remember.
Palantir. Basically,
Oh.
he can use it in safety, essentially, which is
I will help you bear this burden.
so. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's good stuff. But anyways, that's
So
neither here nor there.
Eldan and Elrohir are there, and Glorfindel. They're not in the movie, at least that they're not a big part of the movie. Maybe they are.
Yeah, they literally replaced Glorfindel with Arwen, so that's fun.
Yeah, sad times.
Happens.
Anyway, sorry.
That's okay.
I learned lots reading in the last last month? I don't know. However long it's
So
been.
good. Lord of the Rings is so good. And then Theodric. So Theodric, he is our young rider of Rohan. He is a barbarian. And him and his horse, Baradarok, are very young. I think he's like 19 at this point. So he's a very, very young rider of Rohan. And his goal currently right now is help to find answers with his blood rage and also his the dreams that he has been having. And so he's going to seek out Círdan to hopefully get further, deeper insight on that, but also in just kind of helping this group figure out what to do to get rid of the shadow that is here in Everlast. And our very last character is the DNPC, which is Califir. He is a man of Dol Amroth. He is the captain of Dol Amroth. And he is here for a number of reasons, but he is currently on this journey to help return his basically his squire and one of the basically the only two surviving people from his ship that crashed, Arfanath and oh god, what is his name?
Prothean.
Yeah, Frothian and Arfanath. He's returning them back to Dol Amroth as he helps the crew, and well, not the crew, but his party thwart out again any evils that are running amiss here in specifically Eriador. But he also has kind of a side mission where he was originally he departed from Dol Amroth in search of the Capu Phasgan, which is a black ship that is or basically that is manned by the Black Numenorians, and so he is trying to figure out like what's going on with the Capu Phasgan and the Black Numenorians while he is here in Eriador too, because that is where he last saw them, was here. So yeah, that's his job. That's what he's been tasked with as well. So without further ado, a little bit of recap about what this campaign is. So this is Adventures in Middle-earth. It's a D&D 5e campaign set in the world of Middle-earth, taking place between the years of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, 7 years after the fall of Smaug and the Battle of the Five Armies. And we had an entire campaign, Wilderland Adventures. So if you want to go check that out, that's all on YouTube. But this is the events after Wilderland Adventures, as basically Theodric and Valinith have made their way over to the lands west of the Misty Mountains, Eriador, and the plots that are thickening there. a little bit of a recap about the campaign so far. In Adventure 1, Kyrian, Caliphyr, Valineth, and Theodric, they all went on a quest set by Elrond to go figure out who this captain is, a captain that goes by the name of Mormog. They discovered that he is an Ulug High from the lands of Mordor, and he can speak the Mordor Black speech. And he is currently in pursuit of gathering all of the wicked creatures, all of the evil-aligned men, orcs, trolls, and the kind to unite in order to build an army that would rival even that of like the height of Angmar. And Mormog is currently digging tunnels underneath Eriador. He is taking slaves. He is using orcs and goblins and stuff to be able to dig these tunnels so that their army can move at any point hidden and away from sunlight. And that's going. They discovered this plan is happening, but in the meantime, they are trying to figure out exactly what this prophecy entails. So they had met and they discovered these plans from Mormog at this place called the Broadcleave, where there was a large stone that basically the last prophecy of Malbeth the Seer, and it was destroyed. And so this information has been spread to the Dunedain communities, but for a while, the party was the only ones who knew what this prophecy was, and kind of seeing the similarities in their characteristics, taken on the role of kind of like the new prophecy. They are off making their way westwards to Lindon in order to consult Círdan about the whereabouts of a specific sword that is known to be somewhere along the coast of Eriador. Long story short, they are venturing all the way across basically the width of the entire region of Eriador, and one thing has led to another. They stopped at Weathertop, and they are now at this place called the Forsaken Inn, and the owner Jack doesn't necessarily like that name for it, but it's it's pretty forsaken considering room number 6, and yeah, it's a time, I'm telling you.
Dude, that's also in the Fellowship.
Room number 6?
No, but the Forsaken Inn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They talk about it anyway.
But
Nice,
yeah,
isn't it?
the Forsaken Inn, and then and so Jack is there. He's a cool bean, I guess. But they discovered that there is a caravan that is traveling through basically the width to Bree of Eriador, and they have decided to join up with this caravan as they make their way to Bree. And kind of restock, take rest before moving on. However, they got to know many of these individuals, so I can go ahead and recap their names and everything of everybody that you have learned. So there's a group of dwarves. You haven't learned any of their names. There's 4 of them. 3 of them look a little bit older. 2 of the 4 of them are definitely noticeably younger. One of them very noticeably younger, as far as dwarves go. And then you met people by the name of Adoric. He is a Breelander, and he is the guide of the caravan. You met a man named Mirabar, who is the basically main merchant that is traveling his wares to Bree from Dorwinion. So he is an Easterner, like a Far Easterner. Then there is Herlinen, who is the herbalist that is traveling with them, so the traveling herbalist, and then along with Herlin and Baralas, who is the lady medic who is also traveling with them. And then the last guy that you came to know was Eowyn, who is a Breelander, and he's basically like the stable boy that travels with Adoric. These are all humans, as you can see, and then the dwarves that are with them as well. But during the stay at the Forsaken Inn, they are currently looking for a Dunedain that goes by the pseudonym Terry Mack, but his real name is Malor, and he is supposed to be changing his guard with Falthor, who is currently at Weathertop, but he has not showed up yet. And so I think the last thing we talked about is the company in the morning was gonna scour the area and then meet up with the caravan after, like you look for him. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
But in the night, not only did Theodoric have another one of his ghastly visions, but sitting up and kind of doing his Dunedain thing and keeping watch, Kyrian, he noticed that both Everlast and her linen left in the night for about 10 minutes before returning with a cold presence following behind them. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over at the dawn of the morning at the Forsaken Inn. It is an early morning, and Kyrian, definitely you're the first one up, as this is where the vast majority of the caravan have gathered. They don't even stop to eat, but Adoric and Mirabar basically gather everybody, including the dwarves, at 5 a.m. sharp. Everybody is up. Everybody looks tired, with the exception of Adoric, who looks very ready to go for the road. And as they gather in kind of the main room, is there anything that you want to do, Kyrian? Just let them go for the day, or what's the plan?
We will catch up with you. We have some other pressing business.
Adoric, he takes the note that Valinith had written the previous day, and he looks at his like, no worries, we keep a slow pace to make sure that everybody, including the ponies, keep up. We won't be too far ahead when you do decide to join us. It looks like you travel much lighter than us, so you should have no problem joining up. And he smiles, and he puts his hand on your shoulder, Kyrian, and he says, I haven't met many rangers like you. You're one of the good ones. And he he takes his hand and he gives you like a pat on the face, which is actually kind of funny because you're like way taller than him, and he like has to like reach up to put his hand on your shoulder, and then he like taps your face as like he leaves. And the groups filed out, and
Kind
as
of
they
flinch away and like shirk it off. Like, what the heck?
As they depart, you can hear that Adoric, he is whistling to himself in a very bright demeanor. They make their way over to the stables, to which the ruckus of everything does wake Theodoric up as he kind of makes his way back into the Forsaken Inn as well. But the entire caravan, they move, and they are a large presence. As I had mentioned previously, they have 11 ponies with them, along with a large cart as well, which has all kinds of goods from Dorwinian, and that's pulled by 2 like full-size horses. And then basically all of the other stuff. There is a small little wagon that is being basically moved that belongs additionally to Herlinen, with all of his goods for like his healing herbs and whatnot. And yeah, it's they move slow. They definitely move slow. As you basically go out into the morning, you see them go down the path. It is no longer raining, but the grass and like the ground is still kind of soft from the previous day of intense rain. But you can tell that it's starting to get a little bit humid as it is the peak of summer. Any cold that had come over this area of the Breeland is no longer in existence, not even close. It is a nice kind of, well, not nice, it's a muggy day. And there's a fine mist that hangs low. Not like dense fog, but like a fine mist that hangs low that kind of makes things not eerie per se, but it cuts your vision by a good amount, at least far off into the distance. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you guys.
Great. I will start heading south toward the forest, looking and doing my best to pick up a trail of.
I'm assuming the rest of us are up, right? At this
The
point.
only ones that I've noted that are up right now are Kyrian and Theodoric, but you can wake up if you want. I mean, you knew that they were going to be up in the morning, so I'm assuming that plans were made. You made a note and everything, so.
Yeah, I mean, since Kyrian seems to like want to scout ahead, I guess Valinith will stay back and kind of help Arthanath, Rothian, and Califir get ready to depart and await Kyrian's return. So,
Yeah, I'll go about an hour south.
Okay, perfect.
Scouting things out before returning.
Perfect. I'm going to have you make a survival check. So you begin to make your departure south of the main road. You're familiar with this wood. It's a wood that a lot of people do camp in, as I had mentioned in the previous episode, previous session, that a lot of people actually prefer to camp in this small wooded area as opposed to actually stay in the Forsaken Inn, kind of bypassing it completely. And so it's not super dense, and you're not expecting it to be all that dangerous per se. But what was your result?
Just to double check, it should be at advantage because
Yes,
of
this is no lands. Yep.
yeah, and just tracking specifically. 24.
24. You're easily able to pick up a trail. There is a clear set of footprints that go into the woods, and you follow it with absolute ease. You weave kind of in and out, and you know that there's like a couple of places that you like, couple of trees that you like to hang out by that provide decent cover from the winds that oftentimes during specifically the springtime whip through here. But you follow it deeper and deeper into this wood until you come across kind of this small little thicket. This is definitely further you would travel into the wood than the vast majority of just like travelers through here, and so it's pretty secluded. And you can tell that like kind of these brambles and sticks have been kind of tied together to create somewhat of a shelter, probably from the rain. And you see what looks to be it completely empty. However, there is what look to be like the wrappings, like the cloth wrappings of some kind of rations that were here. You pick it up. You can tell it's dry, but the crumbs that are on the ground, they look fresh. And so, almost as if somebody was here previously.
Great. Can I see any trail of where he went after that?
You
How
do.
fresh?
You scour around kind of this small little campsite, and you see that it actually these footprints, they seem to depart eastward, kind of out of the east side of the thicket. So let me go ahead and pull up the map here real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Does it look like he's just headed toward Weathertop?
So basically, he disappeared into this thicket, and you go down, and he exits out this way. I'm gonna have you make a nature check for me.
Okay. Nature. I don't remember. This is just normal, I think. Maybe. Wait, do I have a thing? What does my thing say? Sorry.
It's so nice being a Dunedain
Um,
and having like all the ranger wanderer stuff.
It's so true. Journey, pro rating, known land, stealth, and yeah, no, that's just normal. Okay, nature. 20.
As you depart and you follow these tracks basically to the edge of this land, the tracks immediately vanish, and you look around to see like where like you would think as a Dunedain where you would go, and you remember that there is something that you in kind of your ranger heritage has allowed you to be able to do with it, which is kind of commune with the earth. You lean down and you put your ear against the ground, almost as if the earth itself has memories. And as you listen, you hear soft, not necessarily whispers, but like kind of like you begin to feel kind of like recollections of like things that happened like in the very, very recent past. And you kind of have a hunch that whatever these were they were footprints that were avoiding detection. And so these were clearly the footprints of a ranger. And you can tell that they have made their way back up to the Forsaken Inn at some point within probably the past 6 to 8 hours.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I will follow them back to the Forsaken Inn, I suppose.
While that is happening, so it's about like I would say it's about like an hour-ish round trip. It's not too far off the beaten path. Let's go ahead and jump back over to as you make your way back to Valinith and Theodoric and Caliphyr.
Also, when I communed with the Earth, I'm pretty sure the Earth told me that it was free real estate. So,
It's real estate.
yeah.
Especially them
I'm like,
South Downs. They're looking pretty
yeah,
free.
that's pretty
Look like
free.
no
No
one
one
living
wants
down
to
there.
live there.
No, there's
It's-
ghosties. It's rumored to be haunted.
Barrow Whites. No,
That's
not
not just rumors put out there by the Dunedain
Yeah.
and the Rangers this time. There's actual
there are creepy hands that are gonna slash your friends to death.
Silent Hill.
That
style.
is more dangerous than Weathertop was. I'm just saying.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can get some pretty sweet weapons, though. Imagine if we got barrow swords. We could actually fight
Yeah.
the Witch King and win.
It's true. Although Frodo's exploded, so I don't know what that's about.
He got a better one.
He was
It's all
like,
good.
"You shall not pass."
Your sword has been shattered.
That's not what he said, but that's kind of. I mean, Frodo in the book is sick.
Yeah, he's pretty sweet. He's pretty great. Anyways,
Anyway,
so
sorry.
Valinith,
Back at the range.
back
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the Forsaken Inn. Valinith, you get ready, and as you wake up, where did you rest, by the way? Where did you?
In the door. Yeah. So he kind of like made his way and like hunkered himself in the doorway of room 6, just to kind of keep an eye on everything that's going on. Far enough outside though, where he didn't have to smell that dank nastiness from that room
Mhm.
all night. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. As the door's been kind of open wide, some of that dankness has wafted into the main area, but as most of it actually has escaped. The holes that were patched in the roof seem to have held up during the night, especially as the rain got better. But yeah, Caliphyr does eventually wake up, and waking up Frothian and Arfanath, he gets up and he says, "Oh, did the caravan leave already?" As he basically he gets his like gear and like sets it like all to the side. Making his way into the main room, he begins to boil a pot of water on the fire for morning tea or coffee or whatever.
Yeah. Valinith responds and says, "Oh yes, they were up. They didn't even stop for breakfast. And in fact, Kyrian went to go scout ahead. As we discussed last night, we still need to go look for, oh man, what's his name? Terry Mack. So he's not back yet though. So we're waiting on him to get back."
Is that right? And he goes ahead and he gives like a big stretch as he notices Theodoric kind of sitting at one of the tables. He looks deep in contemplation, almost as if he is trying to go over some kind of lost memory that he has. This is for you, Valinith. This is a look that you're quite familiar with, Theodoric. It is pretty clear that he had some kind of a dream the previous night.
Valinith approaches him and puts a hand on his shoulder. "Rough night, eh? Well, don't let it get you down too much."
He looks up and he says, I just don't really understand my dreams these days." And he looks back out kind of towards like the window towards the stables, and he says, "I don't know what it was, but I've never had this specific dream before. It was curious. And he hesitates for a moment as if to say anything. And he says, "Everything about this journey is telling me to go back home. There's something that doesn't want me to continue on this adventure." And he thinks for a moment and he says, "But I can't abandon my friends. I can't abandon all of you, and I have no idea what this means. I've only just started to learn how to," and he pulls out of his backpack what looks to be charts that Elrond had begun to teach him on how to track his dreams and kind of what they mean. And you can tell that he's already taken the time to jot down his dreams from the previous night. And he says, "I just can't make anything of it. I guess the only thing
Hmm.
now is to just wait for more. Try to dive more into the dreams and what they could possibly mean.
Well, you have the strength of mind at the very least. I know any normal man would have probably taken those words that were told to you in the dream to heart. Uh, However, we appreciate you for staying along, and hopefully we can find some answers along the way.
He looks to you and he says, Valinith, this is kind of related to my dream, but what do you know of, and he thinks deep and hard, what do you know of history,
Hmm.
of specific female figures? And he, like, racks his brain. In my dream, there was an old woman who was crying over the death of her son. She mistaked me as
Hmm.
him. I was in front of his grave, but I couldn't make out the name. She invited me closer,
Uh,
and when I did approach, she looked at me and she said, "You adventurers are all the same." She told me to turn back. She told me to go home.
do you know where you were specifically? Were you overlooking any familiar sights, or do you have any recollection of where this grave was?
He shakes his head and he says, "All I know is that there was a tempest swirling all around me. A great storm had broken out above head, and the winds were whipping. The rain made it near impossible to look in any direction. It was just gray sheets all around me of rain. The only things that I could see was this large tomb and this widow that was crying over it."
How much knowledge does Valinith have about this region specifically when it in terms of like the Barrows and things like that?
Make
Does
a
he have any
shadow
knowledge?
lore check for me.
Okay. That's sounding very borrowy to me for some reason. Shadow lore. 12.
You know a decent amount. Like the ghost stories of the South Downs and the Barrow Downs are pretty much things that the elves specifically have been looking into. Um, like
Mm.
over ever since basically the fall of Arnor, many of these places have been haunted. They've been tainted by dark magics, and such things such as barrow wights have been known to walk about, which are even dangerous to the average elf walking about. But
Mm-hmm.
in regards to people that are buried here, there are a number of people, mostly men buried in these hills,
Mm-hmm.
and mostly men from the fall of Arnor. Um, if your guesses were to be guesses, your best educated
Mm-hmm.
one would be that this probably has something to do with that, but there's really no way of knowing.
What makes the Barrow Downs in the North Downs, South Downs, all the Downs? What makes them evil? Like what makes gives a black dark magic to them?
So basically, during what was that?
The borrow whites.
Yeah, the
And
barrel
Yeah.
weights. And so
barely.
essentially during the fall of Arnor, many of basically these Dunedain were buried in these hills, and they were watched over by basically the elves and then the Dunedain that were remaining. However, during the Wars of the Witch King after the fall of Fornost, the Witch King and his evil basically sorcery was able to corrupt these like the dead. Basically, he's like kind of like a necromancer, and he would raise the spirits of them from the dead. And then also there's
Mm.
been many a history of trolls looting and plundering barrows too, and so like disturbing like graves, these like hill graves, which also disturbs the dead as well. Those who have not moved on, who have departed from Middle Earth up until this point, those who have been trapped for one reason or another. They basically having their graves be disturbed is also like something that is not good. But as specifically barrow wights, those are creations of the Witch King. Um, but
Okay, so
there's
I was just asking because this recollection doesn't strike Valnith as a barrow wight per se. It sounds like it's an actual like live woman.
Yeah,
who's
it
been
like from the
doing
sounds
things.
of what
Mm,
Theodric is saying is like he like it's a live woman, and she thought that he was her son.
okay. Valinus says, "Well, in these strange lands, there's lots that I don't know. There's lots that I do know. I don't find that it is black magic from the Barrows themselves. However, hmm, it is curious. Was there any specific feeling that came with it while you were experiencing this dream per se? You say this is a new dream.
He thinks for a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and make a. Um, I'm gonna make a Shadow Lore check for him. 16. He says there was a clear feeling of dread, but even more than that, sadness. The things that she was telling me in this dream. And he kind of sighs for a moment. I couldn't help but believe her, almost as if there was some kind of doom that awaited me if I didn't heed her words. Maybe the same doom that her son fell. I just don't know. And he goes back to his charts as he begins to kind of look at them and try to decipher what he can glean from at least that recent memory.
And Valnith responds, "Well, dreams do have meaning. At the very least, I know that with us in the group that we have, we won't let you have doom befall you, at least if we can't help it.
And Caleb
But
here,
maybe it's
he
something that
mentions too, he's like, as long as we're together, we're strong. There are very few, even in Gondor, that could probably stand with an alliance that we have. I've seen all of you with blades. I've seen all of you with your courage." And he smiles as he puts a cup of coffee down on the table for you, Valnith, and then one for Theodric. And he smiles and he holds it, kind of his coffee close as he blows on it a little bit. He says, "You're very worthy. We're all worthy. As long as we got each other's backs, as long as we trust each other, I don't see that there will be any issues."
astute words, Calefir." And Valnith takes the coffee and puts a hand on his shoulder and says, "See, with this positivity in the party, we're positively ensured to succeed. Ha ha. But at the very least, Theodric, maybe this is something that you can bring up to Círdan when we make it to the Grey Havens. I know he's even older than Elrond and maybe has some more insight into this, more than I know at the very least."
He nods and he takes a note of that. And with that, around this time, Calefir has returned, and Kyrian, as you do wander back up the path to the Forsaken Inn, you do notice that along kind of like this like roundabout, like eastward trajectory, kind of going back north, you do eventually pick up back onto some tracks that basically go right up to the front windows of the Forsaken Inn.
How fresh are these?
These ones are quite fresh. You can tell that, like, again, the ground is still a bit spongy from the previous day. These ones, as you kind of kneel down and look, these ones are probably about 4 hours old. As if some point during the night. So right now it's about 6 a.m. So at some point during the night, someone was here looking into the front windows of the room.
And I didn't see any of that or like feel or hear any of that last night, correct?
You did not.
All right. Well, then I will kind of search the perimeter, go inside, and ask if anyone has seen him coming to or from the area.
And with that, Kyrian
Because
makes
like
his
4
way.
hours ago would have been
early.
Like 3 hours before I woke up and left,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Something like that.
Mhm.
Okay.
I would say probably. Actually, I'm gonna have you make a very specific. I'm gonna have you make a very specific check for me.
Okay.
Survival.
Survival. 24.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
On a roll today.
you're able to track probably precisely when these footprints were made, almost probably to the minute. You remember that there was some point in the night that you were observing, and there was a little bit of movement that was happening in the upstairs rooms. These were probably about the time that the two what were their names?
Yeah.
I
Barrelass
got it. Don't worry.
Barrelass and
Halfender or whatever.
Hirlinen.
Hirlinen.
Were moving around before coming down. The rain does actually a decent amount of disguising any noises, but there was a little small shadow that kind of blocked the moonlight, and it was very brief. Almost as if like it could have just been like a branch swaying in the moonlight. But perhaps maybe that was somebody that was looking inside the room of the inn. But as soon as you were able to glance up at it, it did disappear. So it was probably tracked right around that time.
Okay.
And while this is happening, Frothian and Arfanath have made their way into the main room. And Arfanath has grabbed his coffee, and Frothian's like, "Is there anything to eat around here?" And he jumps over the bar and continues to like look at like the jars. Basically, it's like pickled goods, things that have gone like kind of a little bit sour or bad, and like he's just like, what does anybody eat here? And he looks down, and you can see that he's crouched down behind the counter, and he's rifling through something. And he pops back up, and he says, "How about this?" As he pulls basically like this large bundle out on the table and lays it out, and you can see that there are all kinds of fresh breads and cheese that are laid out in here as well. Kyrian, I'm gonna have you make for me a perception check.
Perception. Okay.
Keep it up.
19.
19.
Pretty good.
This is the same cloth that you saw back down, almost as if it was cut from the same cloth as you saw back down at the campsite.
What does it mean?
At least like the wrapping that it was in.
I will investigate further to see if I can ascertain where he is.
As you
Tyrion, did you find anything? Valinus says as he
I
walks
did.
in.
And his tracks led me right back here.
Oh, really? We didn't see anyone. Did you see anyone? Valinus turns to the rest of the group.
the Gondorians, they didn't see any either. They were fast
And
asleep.
this food seems more fresh than what is typically at the Forsaken Inn.
And Frothian, he looks up to you and he says, "Well, I got it from here." And he bends down beneath the counter and he plops up a large backpack onto the counter.
Do I recognize this backpack?
This is Terry Mac's backpack.
That would be his backpack. Let us search the inn for him. I have a feeling he may be here. What a
Okay.
what an adventure to just come right back
what
to
the-
where we started.
He has been abducted by Jack. Jack had
Yeah.
enough.
Jack took him into the back room. That was the food that was being fed last night.
Oh
Oh
gosh.
no!
There was
Oh
some
no!
tofu.
That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, if he's backpacks here, it would have been strange for him to go out and and leave it behind, wouldn't it have not? Maybe he is here.
Quite.
Valinith, I'm gonna have you make a history check for me.
History. 10.
One of the things that you remember the previous day was there was a lot of conversation that happened throughout basically the course of the inn for like the entire day that you were there. And however, the only people that you really weren't able to discern anything from were the dwarves. The dwarves pretty much kept to themselves the entirety of the time. You're thinking to yourself, maybe they have more information on this. Perhaps.
Valinus says that out loud. Maybe the dwarves know something. They're the only ones I couldn't quite crack. However, how to get information out of them, that's the question. Well, at the very least, I think we should look around, see if we can find any more signs of Terry Mac being here, and then maybe our best course of action is to catch back up with the caravan.
I agree.
What do you think? Okay. All right, let's do it. Let's look. Quickly, we'll look around.
Calefir says, why don't we just ask Jack? As he points upstairs to the basically where he's sleeping currently. He's a bad curator. He is not up for his guests. He is probably still fast asleep. But it's only a thought.
Oh, yes. Well, maybe he doesn't have the best view of me from last night. Calefir, why don't you take the lead?
And he laughs and he says, all right, here I go. And you can see that he disappears up the stairs. Calefir, you can hear knocking on the door, and he says, wakey, wakey. We are departing for the day, and we just have one question to ask of you, Jack. And he's going to go ahead and make a... he's going to do a persuasion check. Ooh, nat 20 for 23.
Nice.
Chose right. Good job.
As he does this, you hear a what? And the door creaks open. He's like, you have a question, eh? Where's that ranger of yours? Did he leave? And Calefir says, we're just now departing, but we noticed that Malor, or I'm sorry, Terry Mack, who was here earlier. He said he was here earlier, right? And he nods his head and says, yeah, got into an argument with the dwarves and departed. I can never really understand rangers, particularly Terry Mack. He's not great company. But no, he never came back. And Calefir says, well, his bag was behind the counter, and you didn't bother mentioning that to us when we initially asked. And he says, well, he didn't ask specifically about his stuff. And he says, but between you and me, Terry Mack's kind of a little bit of a shifty personality, and that's coming from me. And Calefir says, I've never met the man, but you've given me no reason not to believe you. Do you know why he was arguing with the guests that were here? The dwarves were mentioning something about the fact that he was going to steal stuff from them in the night. They yelled at him, and I can't understand dwarvish, so I have no idea what they said, but he did depart. That's all I know. That's all I can tell you. I'm going to get some more shut-eye. And he slams the door in front, and Calefir comes down and relays that information to you.
Well, it seems like the dwarves are our best bet then, for at the very least see what Terry Mack did to upset them. Maybe it'll give us an idea of which direction he went. And maybe it doesn't matter all that much. Maybe he just decided to make his way back to Weathertop and just forgot his stuff. I don't know.
Unlikely. Is it unlikely that happened?
The thing that's really difficult to tell here is you don't know what Terry Mack's motives are. So as rangers, basically your primary goals, as far as like what your like job entails, is to ensure the safety of basically the roads, specifically the greenway and the lands. And if
Right.
there was any investigations and stuff that were needed to be had, um, maybe you would linger around like an area longer than you would need to, which is why like the rotations are kind of more suggestions as opposed to like very strict, because sometimes like something might take you off of just your normal rotation, and you might be the only one who can investigate such things. However, there have been known to be rangers who, for one reason or another, just are troublemakers, and maybe investigate into things a little bit too much. You know of Terry Mack, you don't really know him all that well, but you do know him to be someone who is disliked even amongst just like the normal rangers. People tend to avoid him, not only because he's horribly ugly, but also because he's pretty darn ugly. But also because his personality is like very difficult to get along with. So the fact that like he got into some kind of like confrontation, that's not a surprise. It's not like there's like he's pretty confrontational when it comes to like his investigations and stuff. So
Can I make some sort of, I don't know, personal insight check to see if this is even like worth investigating or if it's just not worth our time?
yeah, go ahead and make an insight check for me.
21.
Um, it's hard to know. One of the things that you are particularly responsible for, Kyrian, being kind of like a leader of like your people, is making sure that if there are any troublemakers, teaching them a lesson. Basically, like you need to confront them to some degree. Um, from the sounds of it, he did not make a very gracious impression of himself amongst the caravan, particularly with the dwarves that were there. And everybody seemed concerned because even if you remember, like Barrelass had like when you were overhearing, like Barrelass had mentioned something that like she thought that that ranger looked like a thief. He was like snooping around, particularly around the caravan and everything, and so people just didn't really trust him. It is your job as his superior to make sure that like justice is done if he did do anything bad. And it seems like he was here recently in the night. So it's up to you. You can leave him to his own devices, or you could just you could try to find him and confront him about anything that went down. But the responsibility of like how they act does eventually fall on you,
Yeah.
evidently.
Have we found any evidence of him like stealing anything or any of that nature in what we've
In
investigated?
in Bree a couple of years ago, he had some confrontations with kind of some black market merchants that were selling kind of some illegal goods. But instead of turning him over to the authorities, he took the goods to himself. Basically, it was some kind of like very like illegal like moonshine products that were being made. There's no really any ways to be able to test to see if they were like poison or not, and then also some curious artifacts, one of which actually seemed to be tainted by some kind of dark shadow, which that eventually was destroyed as it was when it was discovered. But yeah,
But I mean, like
it's been a
in
while.
this venture, like I'm not finding any evidence of him doing necessarily besides just his demeanor.
Yeah, his like kind of snooping about, which he's kind of known for. You haven't noticed that nobody has said like, "Oh, my stuff is missing." Essentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. He's one of those rangers that I am not proud is one of us. But I haven't seen him do anything besides his unfortunate personality uh, that would warrant too much of a thrashing. So I don't want to waste too much more time investigating into this. I can continue to try to track him and see if he's around, but I don't want to tarry too much longer. So I'll make one last try, like
have we
effort to find
attempted
him. But
calling? Yeah, have we attempted calling out for him outside? Maybe he'd answer if he knew that his superior was here
unlikely.
looking for him.
Unlikely.
Oh.
I'm going to have Kyrian. I'm gonna have you make one last survival check for me.
Okie doke. Come on, survival. Oh, is this still with advantage?
Yeah.
18.
So one of the things that you notice as you come out the front doors here is there's a lot of traffic that has been made along one specific side of the building. The side that is, if you're looking facing the building to the right, so I guess to the east of it, where many of the hooves are. And you haven't done much exploration to the left. And upon further investigation, you do see that there are a set of footprints that do go that way. However, these are the footprints of Herlinen and Barrelas. You haven't checked where they specifically went the previous night. So is that something you would like to follow? And you actually haven't just checked like this property like very much outside of like the front of it. So
Yeah, I'll investigate.
So as you follow these footprints, they're clearly like they weren't trying to remain hidden to some degree. And as you make your way over to the side of the Forsaken Inn, the establishment, you see that the two footprints, they stop actually. And whatever conversation or whatever was happening, because you remember the previous night that they were, or Barrelas was weeping. And she had mentioned something to the previous night about she was afraid that he was going to come and take it from her. If you remember kind of listening to that. For whatever reason, these tracks just stop here and then they returned. And it was about 10 to 15 minutes that they were out there before they did eventually come back and return for the evening. But you do notice that the property is quite expansive. Out back, there are a couple of sheds. There's a well as well. And also a large storage room where some of the hay and stuff for like the horses and whatnot are kept. It's kind of rat infested and it's pretty gross. But there are a number of things back here that you can tell pretty much Jack uses with his basically goes about on his day. I'm gonna have you make a investigation check for me.
Okie doke.
Believe in you, Kyrian. You
19.
got this.
Jeez, all of these rolls. You do notice in the sunlight there is a small glinting over close to the closest shed, kind of between where the shed is and the well. It looks to be some kind of knife that is sticking out of the ground.
I'll investigate it and look and see what it is.
You grab it and you see that this is a ranger's knife. It is implanted in the ground, and the chances are this is most likely would belong to Terryneck. You look around and you see if there was like any kind of struggle anywhere that this could, like why like he doesn't have his knife with him. And you see that there is one set of footsteps that almost like moves around as if in a dance. There's like it's difficult to explain like what it is because it looks like a confrontation was made, but there's only one set of foot tracks. And they end at the side of the well.
I will look down the well.
As you gaze down, it's not a very deep well. You can tell that it's pretty dirty, decently unused. But you do see what looks to be brown hair floating at the top of the water.
Oh, he freaking
There's
died.
been a murder.
Oh
There's
my
been a
god.
murder.
I'll call for the others before tampering with everything, but
They all come.
I
And
found him in here, quick.
Caliphyr looks to you and he says, "What happened?" And he looks and he picks up the dagger that's in the ground, and he places it kind of like on the side of the well, and he says, "Is there a problem? I don't see any blood or anything." And there, like, upon investigation, there's no blood. However, on the side of the dagger, there is blood. But no drippings of it anywhere.
Yes. This is quite peculiar. Balanith, what do you make of this?
Valinith looks down the well and he sees the bobbin head of Terry Mack and he says, "Well, first and foremost, we need to investigate. There has been a murder at the Forsaken Inn."
Caliphyr says, "I don't know about you, but I'm not climbing down there. That's filthy, even for just..."
Well, does anyone have a bit of rope?
Oh, I do. Valinith pulls out his 50-foot hempen rope that's 1,000,000 pounds that he carries everywhere he goes with him. So he makes some sort of jig to try to jig him in and pull him up if he can.
Okay. I'm going to have you make a dexterity saving throw as you do that.
Ooh, rough. Okay. Pretty good. 15.
You are able to tie basically you take the rope kind of in the center and you tie two kind of ropes around, or like loops around it. One to hopefully link the head, and then one to fish down and potentially link the legs. And after probably about 20-30 minutes of trying to get this, you're able to get it to where it's over like the main part of the body on both ends, and the group of you are easily able to pull out the body of Terry Mack. He is quite hideous. He is quite distorted. I'm going to have Kyrian, you make an investigation check on him.
Of course. My luck is running out. 13.
As you look upon the body, you see one very clear sign that his throat has been cut. But again, he's not bleeding. He's not bloody. Perhaps it could have run out, he could have bled out like inside the well or anything like that. But it is a peculiar wound.
Can Valinith make a medicine check and see if he can deduce anything from
Balanith,
this?
What do you make of this wound?
Make a
Well, it seems his neck's been cut. But let me look further into this.
You are shrewd as always, my elf friend.
Yes. 13. Rolling not great.
You investigate this wound, you can see that his blood, the reason he hasn't been bleeding is it looks like his blood is coagulated, almost as if he, like the blood itself was stopped from coming out. And as you feel his body, it's ice cold too. You look into his eyes further, and his eyes aren't kind of like closed like this. His eyes are like wide awake, as if he's staring into your soul.
It seems our good friend Terry Mack was frightened at the moment of death. And do you feel this for being dead for as little as he's been, based off of what you've told me, he shouldn't be this cold, and his throat. It's as if his blood was stopped from coming out. He was murdered. This isn't... But by what? Did you see anything strange last night, Kyrian, aside from the ongoings of, looking for Terry Mack and trying to stay up for him? Is there anything else that happened?
I will confer everything I said in more detail in the night, but for now, yes, I saw that couple. They were talking about an item that they were afraid being stolen, and the woman was quite beside herself and crying. Other than that, the dwarves were being loud. And there was one moment where I think, thinking back on it, that might have been when our friend here returned.
Hmm.
But other than that, I don't think I remember anything.
Well, aside from being them going outside, was there anything strange about Herlin and Barrelax, right?
Was there?
Barrelax.
They seemed pretty normal. I mean, the two of
Yeah.
them kept themselves. The one thing that was interesting about this caravan was it looked to be like almost like it was like three separate groups. It was like Herlinen and Barrelax.
Yeah.
It was the dwarves, and then it was the basically the Dorwinian man and being led. Like that was like the main part of the caravan, but everybody else seems to just kind of like have like their own groups that are involved, and so none of them seem per se to be that close to each other than like within their own groups. So yes, they seemed off if they were all going to be like a traveling company together, but at the same time they just seems to be just kind of like a couple or something. There was nothing that really, I guess, like the previous night that was that much of a concern other than a girl crying and a guy trying to like help her. It's curious.
But at the same time, Valneth interjects. They were the only ones besides Theodric who were outside during that time in which this could have happened. So it
Caleb
seems we
here
have our
looks
suspects.
Looks to Theodric.
Theodric was also out. Theodric, do you
He
remember
was
anything?
He says, the only thing that I can remember was it was cold when I woke up. But as soon as the cold came, it went.
Was it like the cold that that we experienced back at the ruined village on the other side of the Misty Mountains? Was it similar?
He
Or
thinks
was
for
this
a
new?
moment, and he says, it was different. It seemed more natural, if that makes sense. Almost as if some kind of cold front had come through. It was just a breeze. It didn't feel peculiar. I didn't feel dread.
Interesting. And Valneth asks Theodric, if you're brave enough, dear lad, can you touch the skin of this man that we have, Terry Mack? How similar is the feeling of the cold?
Theodric, he looks over Terry Mack and he puts his hand on like the hand that's like on his chest. It's bare for the most part, and he feels. I'm gonna have him make a Shadow Lord check. Whew, 18.
Whew.
He feels, and like it's ice cold. It's not just cold. I mean, he's damp and he's wet, but even in this like muggy, humid climate right now, like that hasn't even warmed this body up, almost as if he's chilled to the bone. He mentions the only supernatural thing that I can feel about this is, and he sees that as he begins to kind of like feel like a little bit further, the hand is gripping something.
Ooh. I see.
What is it
What
gripping?
He opens the hand up, and in basically clutch, and he almost has to like pry, like almost as if like the joints had like frozen themselves in place. He had to pry it open, and there looks to be some kind of small, it looks like a brooch that is inside his hand. Upon further investigation of the brooch, you can see that it is primarily like a black, like obsidian, and written in silver on it is a large G that is been put there.
For Gandalf, perhaps. I don't think I know Gandalf.
This is strange.
Cole,
I wouldn't
know,
touch
Kyrian
it.
would know of Gandalf.
Nice. Does it look like a Gandalf G?
No.
Dang it.
Not from the initial something. Whatever this is, it has gotten him into trouble.
Peculiar. Let us be careful in handling this. I know
Hmm.
this can be strange things about. Does it look of elvish make, Valinith?
Does it look of Elvis make?
Make a tradition
Lore
check for me,
master.
Valinith.
Tradition, okay.
I guess I also could try to figure that out,
Tradition.
but I just
It's
figured
all
since
good.
he's an elf, he would know.
That's freaking solid. A natural 1 for a 3.
You have no clue what this is. You're confused about the whole situation.
I will try to discern if this is elvish make
Tradition
myself.
check.
I have no idea. I've never seen such a thing.
13.
No, this doesn't look elvish make. This does look pretty new though. It doesn't look like an ancient artifact.
Does it seem that there's some magic about it or something uncouth?
Not that you can tell. This seems to be some kind of sigil of someone. Particularly you're familiar in like the Breeland. Kind of similar to hobbits. A lot of people have like their family lineages and whatnot, and people are very proud of that. And so there's all kinds of sigils like in Eriador, like around this area that would be like you would carry with you, like kind of like your like identifier of who this could be. This is probably just one of those, but it doesn't seem magical per se.
Okay. Well, out of caution, I'm gonna not grab it with my bare hands, as it seems that this was potentially, a cause of death. So I'm gonna take a cloth, maybe from some of the rations or something, and like
Terry Max cloth.
yeah,
Oh yeah, we could take his backpack too, since he's dead.
yeah,
See,
and
he's
wrap it
got-
and take it to what is his name, Jake or whatever, Jack, and ask if he knows anyone that this may belong to in the area.
Okay. Yeah, you make your way back, and Jack hasn't come down yet. Clearly, he's still sleeping for the day. Calefear looks to you as if, should I go wake him again, or does anyone else want to do it?
Yes, Calefear, go wake Jack again. We will continue to investigate anything else. Is there anything else that we can try to ascertain in this area or about his
Yeah.
death? Or have
Anything
we
else
kind
in
of
the
exhausted
well?
everything?
Make a
Yeah.
investigation check. We'll have Cole make it, and it could be with advantage, as everybody is kind of working together at that.
Ooh, not good. 11.
As you look around, you see that most of the action seems to have been confronted in this area. You do notice, however, that the footprints from Terry Mac don't seem to be coming around that left side where Barrelass and her linen were. They came around from the right side, so along the side that Theodric was sleeping. But they do seem, as you wrap around the house, connected to that front window.
At what point do they seem to start to struggle?
Basically, you see that these footprints walk over to this like that shed area, and you can actually see that there is a solid knee imprint on there, almost as if he was kneeling in to listen to something. And then basically right from this moment, there was a struggle. Again, it looks like a dance because it's only one set of footprints.
Which is odd. Because there should be 2 at least.
Well, from what we've discovered,
Unless
especially
it was
with
a bat.
well, this definitely doesn't seem to be by me looking over the patient himself. Seem to be natural, and natural seems a death. There's some magic behind this, or something
Calefear notes
different.
too, and he says, "But the thing that is curious about all of this is, if it was something supernatural, why would they feel the need to cut his throat as well? With his own knife." And he looks down at like the coagulated blood that's still on the knife.
It doesn't seem, and Valnith looks at his eyes and kind of like deduces. It does not seem like he. It seems like he saw something frightening, at the very least, upon his death. It seems like it wasn't just him who had done this. It was something, but what?
Theodric,
Valnith will open the
he's
shed and see if he can look inside this shed and see if there's anything in there.
and as you're doing that, Theodric, he mentions and he just says, "I have many experience with dreams that of my death, um, and when you're faced with it in the end, when death seems inevitable, don't you think we're all going to be afraid?"
That is true, but not to the point where you would randomly in the middle of the night slit your own throat and throw yourself in a well. I find that that is, especially based off of what we know, he was just up to some hood rat stuff.
And that
That's not
wouldn't
something you would just
explain
randomly
why
do.
his wound immediately coagulated, as it would seem here.
You investigate. The
Valnith
shed.
will open the shed. Yeah.
Make an investigation check
anything?
for me.
Anything nice in there? Maybe not nice, but
Can
gosh.
I also investigate the knife further
11.
to see if anything has been
Yeah, make an investigation check on that.
like cursed or something?
As you look inside this shed, you see that there's a number of farming tools that are here. Most of them look pretty beaten and rusted up. Some of them look just like they're decaying from like lack of use as well. You can see that there are a bunch of shingles stacked in the side, a bunch of thatching materials that have basically gone rotten at this point, meaning he had the stuff to fix the roof, but he just never did. You also notice that this place seems to be some kind of a storehouse, as there are some curating meats in here as well. These don't look abandoned. These look like they are like this is like these meats have freshly been hung. It's not the cleanest thing in the world.
But nothing super suspicious, like
Nothing suspicious.
where he could be. Okay.
No, this place is kind of dilapidated. It's pretty gross. What was your result, Kieran?
17.
17. I'm gonna have you make a shadow lore check on it. It's going to be made at advantage with a +2.
Wow, advantage +2.
Pretty good.
23.
There is no shadow directly infused into this weapon, but as you look closer, you do notice that this blade is something beyond what is just a normal dagger that a ranger would have. You see that there is a leather wrapping that has been haphazardly wrapped around the side of it, and as you unwrap it, you see that this is actually a weapon that belongs to basically like the original armory in Arnor. And this is something that the Dunedain, they know of. So it's not like something that has been lost to the world, but this has probably been stolen from the stores at Fornost by him in order to be used. And so that is another key element of him stealing things. Another sign that he is probably not the most trustworthy person that was amongst the Rangers' ranks. And he disguised it by just putting a leather wrapping on it.
But there's nothing about the knife in particular that would have caused the wound to act the way it did.
Not even a little bit. However, the knife itself, the blood doesn't seem to be coagulated on the knife. It's dry blood. And so whatever ended up happening, whatever the cold that is has taken over the body of Terry Mack, it seems to be coming from within Terry Mack. It's not like from this weapon. Because at some point during the night, this blood unfroze or uncoagulated, and now it's dried.
Yeah.
Can Valnith one more time look over the body of Terry Mack and see if he can like deduce where the core of it's coming from, if that makes sense? Like if there's a source for the cold coming from him.
Okay.
I don't know.
Make a shadow lore check for me.
Okay. Shadow lore. Let's roll kind of good, hopefully. Oh my gosh. That's a natural one for a 3.
difficult to tell. He's wet.
Gosh
He's
darn it.
soaked. But yeah, he's still cold.
See, Britt, Cole rolls well, but Theodric and Valineth, it's good stuff.
Feast or famine. Right?
Well, there you go. Well, at the very least, we shouldn't leave him here. I don't know what the custom is for burying rangers is. However, we need to do something with the body.
Indeed.
While this is all going down, Caliphyr has made his way back inside the Forsaken Inn, and he has begun his knocking on the door of to see if he can get some more answers from Jack. He's gonna go ahead and make a persuasion check as he knocks again for nat 20 for a 23. He knocks again, and he says, "Excuse me, sir. I don't want to disturb you any further, but it seems there has been a murder on your property." And there's a bit of silence, and he grumbles, "Not again." As he steps out, he's basically putting his pants on. He still has kind of like his shirt untucked as he comes in, and he's just like, "All right, where's the body?" As he, those freaking dwarves, as he like grumbles to himself as he walks down the stairs. He goes out, and Caliphyr leads him around back as you're kind of finishing up your investigation around the body of Terry Mack. Jack comes through, and he's like, move aside, and he looks down, and he's just like, as ugly in death as he was in life. And he begins laughing and like looks to you as if like you're gonna join him. Nobody does. In his laughter, and he says, "Well, you're here. Tell me what happened."
That's kind of what we're investigating.
We found him in the well.
Are you blaming me for this?
Nope.
Good.
But it should concern you that it happened on your property.
It is concerning. It's going to ruin my reputation, which means secrecy to all of you. If you do, I'll get you another bowl of soup.
Right.
I never got one to start with. It was too expensive for my taste.
Free bowl of soup. His gaze narrows. He's very serious. As if like this is like a legit like bargaining tool.
Has something strange like this happened before?
Bodies often show up here and there.
Often.
Enough. 1 or 2 a month. Not always on my property, but around. He's taking this very nonchalantly.
Yeah. Is it usually done by a scrap or a brawl of sorts? Because it seems like, and then Valineth kind of explains the situation, that this was done by no one. However, it doesn't seem like there was any intent by the individual to do this willingly to themselves at the same time.
Don't be silly, lad, as he says as he pats you on the chest as he kneels down over Terry Mack. And he says, "There's your answer. Clearly his throat was slit. I probably thought it was one of those dwarves." He stands back up, and he folds his arms, just kind of like looking, and it's like, what a shame. Terry Mack often bought lots of ale from me. You'll be missed.
Can I insight into like if he's hiding something or...
Yeah, make an insight check.
Nat 20 for a 23.
He is just a not very good guy. He has no idea about this. This is something that is like not even in his recollection, and everything that he's telling you, like he is being as honest as Jack can. He has no empathy for the dead.
Cool.
Well, at the very least, we should give him a proper burial before we catch up. Maybe we could learn some more from our companions as we move forward, but we also need to send word out to Weathertop as well. Wasn't he supposed to take over there?
Yes. I don't know, short of going there ourselves if there is a great way to get word out there. Also, Jack, I wanted to ask you if you recognized this sigil, and I'll show him the sigil.
He kind of like narrows his gaze at it as he looks, and he asks, he's like, "Can I see it?"
Of course, be careful.
He takes it in his hand and he looks, and there's like a pin that's on the back. Like I said, it's like a brooch. And he turns it around and he says, "Made of nice material. This looks like a sigil of some kind. This person comes from money. I can tell," as he begins to kind of like clearly like look over like the silver engravements on the side. It's not just like iron or like steel or anything that's been placed. It's like actual like silver that has been put on the edge of this. "I don't know anything about this," and he hands it back to you. I'm gonna have you make an insight check.
Okay. 12.
It's difficult to tell. You're unsure. Like his personality, his demeanor has changed a little bit from kind of his nonchalantness with the death, but it's not enough to really pose many questions. I mean, it's difficult to question him. He's not a very good guy.
Right.
Needless to say.
Well, I don't know what else to investigate except the rafters to see if there was anything, an enemy from above, as it were. But other than that, I don't know what more to investigate here. It seems a strange cause of death, and I am out of my element here and cannot seem to discern further. So I say we bury him and move along and try to keep a good record of everything that happened and see if along our journey we can put the pieces together.
I
Well,
say we
whatever
also
you do,
keep
not
a
on my
tight.
property. And he points like basically northward. He's like, "Go somewhere out there. I don't want them dirtying my well."
Too late for that. Valineth will say we should also be careful as we move forward, especially. And he kind of like lowers his voice so Jack doesn't hear. Especially with this brooch. If this was the cause of death or related to the cause of death, then we may be in trouble as well with in possession of this. So we best be on our best guard as we move forward. Okay.
That's why I shall
Well, we
keep
go-
it wrapped, keep it hidden, and keep it safe. And keep it secret.
Yeah, we'll go bury him, I guess, across the road.
Okay.
Valineth sings "Dust in the Wind" for him, and
You make quick work of it with like 3 like able-bodied like men, and then like the help of an elf. Actually, there's more than that. You're able to dig the hole, bury him, create some kind of a grave marker for him, probably in the course of like an hour and a half, before you're able to actually completely be ready to depart. You can also add to your inventory if you want to take his stuff. Basically, the Arnorian dagger, whoever wants that, and then on top of that, you will get 8 rations.
Nice.
Cool.
So whoever wants to add that.
Valineth
Well-
doesn't really have the capacity to carry any of it, so if you want to divvy those
Sure.
up between the rest of you guys,
Sure.
feel free to do so.
Yeah,
I'll take
Caliph here will take 2
one ration.
rations.
I'll take 1.
Valineth will also take 1.
And that means there are 3 more. I'll take another. Caliph here will take another one. Theodoric is doing fine on rations. He is.
Maybe have Ferothian and what's the bucket eat some. They were wanting breakfast, weren't they?
All right, yeah. Caliph here is going to take those.
Arsenac.
And I will take the dagger,
All right, if you
and
go
with
ahead
intent to return it
Mhm.
to the next
Fornost.
outpost. Yeah.
Perfect. And with that, you have finished the burial and everything. At this point, it's probably later morning, 10:30, 11 a.m., before you get all of your stuff ready to depart up the road. If you travel at even a normal pace, probably within the next couple of hours, you probably will catch up with the caravan.
Cool. Okay, we'll do that. Valineth will keep his ears open to see if he can see anything strange, maybe on the side of the road, and he'll also be looking for some sweet shrubberies, potentially raid for some good stuff
Okay.
as well.
So as you journey and you venture, you eventually do meet up with the caravan. But during that journey, Caleb here as the lookout, he's going to go ahead and make a perception check for the group. Okay, he's got really good perception. That is a 12. But he looks around. There doesn't seem that there's like anybody that's like following you guys, anybody waiting for ambush. It seems like a pretty quiet day as you make your travels. At least from just like as the mist and everything clears up, it seems like it's going to be a good day of travel. Valineth, I'm going to have you make a investigation check for me.
All right, investigation. Theoretically good at that for a natural 20 for a 25. Feast of famine.
There are plenty of things to grab along the roads. Particularly, there is a large flower patch that has all kinds of King's Cup there. You find
Nice.
6 King's Cup.
Nice. He'll take that. Cool. King's Cup. Ah, do you know what this King's Cup does? He says to the party as he's scouring and grabbing it.
Caleb here shakes his head, not familiar with the fauna of Eriador.
Well, this King's Cup. Hold on a sec. Why can't I add it? Manage inventory. King Cup. Well, let me tell you, it's bright and it's yellow, and if we can, if you hold on to this, Caliphyr, I've made even a flower headband for one of my companions in the past. It can give you some luck along your way.
Well, lucky for us, it seems our luck has turned since this morning. He kind of gives like a small chuckle as you eventually do.
King's Cup's pretty darn freaking good, by the way. It's basically you make it into like a necklace or a flower or something woven into your clothes, and basically a character gets lucky for 1d4 plus 1 days. So whenever a lucky character rolls a 1 on a d20 for an attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw, you can reroll the die. And must use the new result. So basically, it doesn't allow you to get a critical failure for d4 plus 1 days.
Cool.
Yeah.
You eventually do catch up with the caravan, and you can tell that they seem kind of none the wiser upon your approach. And Adoric, as you do catch up, says, glad to have you along. It's good to have some swords that are not for hire. And he like gives you like a wink. To protect us, as we mean. You never know. Bandits on the roads, all kinds of things. But welcome. We've got... And he points over to one of the ponies. He's like, if you're feeling hungry and you want some breakfast, we have some rations that you all can have.
Appreciate it. However, we have some dire news back from the Forsaken Inn.
Dire news.
Unfortunately.
It's nearly 1 p.m. What could have happened within, 6 hours since we've seen you?
While he gives this information, I am going to carefully watch everyone to see how they react.
Make a
Insight
check.
Yeah. And Valineth says, there has been a murder of one of our kinsmen, a ranger of sorts. It seems that you had a run-in with him earlier in the day before we had arrived. However, he was found dead in the well in the back.
A kinsman, you say?
Well, a ranger.
That ugly sod. Wait, you found him dead in the well?
Yes, with a knife cut to the throat and dubious means behind it. He was ice cold when we found him, despite the day being the balmy, humid weather that we're currently feeling, and It just seems odd. Everything just seems off about it. It's curious.
So are you blaming one of us for the murder? And he like looks around and like he looks like he narrows his gaze as if he's looking for a thief amongst you, amongst the group. And you're blaming me in my caravan. And he looks back to everybody.
And Valna says, "Oh, not necessarily. In fact, it looks like there was no one who actually did the killing, as we investigated the area quite thoroughly. However, it is odd that we're just wondering if we could ask some questions about the whereabouts and maybe the potential that could have led to his death. Again, not blaming anyone, but understanding the events that led up to his death is important, I think."
He kind of nods and he says, "Well, as these are the lands of Breland, this needs to be brought to Tywick. Tywick Greenleaf. He's the Reeve of Bree. When we enter Bree, we'll make sure to inform him immediately that a ranger has been murdered."
Tywick, what? Greenleaf?
Greenleaf.
And what is he?
He is the Reeve of Bree. So basically, they have kind of like an elected system here in Bree, and so it's kind of like a council, but he's like the head of all of the people in Bree.
I think that is wise, especially if there is a murderer among us of sorts, or if there are queer goings on in the lands of Eriador. I think it should be brought to the attention of those who should know about it. Anyways, did Kyrian observe anything interesting?
What was his result?
Yeah, remind me what I rolled.
I don't know. I didn't see.
No, like
what
what?
kind of roll?
I haven't
Insight.
rolled yet. I didn't hear your insight. Yeah, not great. 6.
As you mention that it's the ranger, you actually see one of the dwarves specifically scoff at this, like, serves him right, as he kind of looks back at you. As far as like some of the stuff that you see from other people, everybody looks generally concerned from the news, but you're unable to determine like any like guilt or anything like that from any of the faces, other than this one dwarf who just seems like pleasure in the fact that he's dead.
I will let Valinith continue his thing, and then I may. In the moment, I'll shoot that dwarf a warning look.
Make an intimidation check for me.
All right.
Nice. Do it.
6.
Yeah.
He grins at you challengingly.
I mean, I'm
wasn't
not
keeping
going
it a
to
secret.
I'm not going to escalate it, but I'm letting him know of my presence.
For sure.
That's all.
So Valinith, as this is going, he kind of joins the caravan, and he actually takes a side behind, or like walking alongside of Everlast and Herlinin, and says, "Oh, what a strange night last night that was. Hopefully the road's been fine ahead."
Herlinin, he speaks. "Yeah, that is strange. Queer news that you have informed us of. I'm glad that it was none of our kin. I mean, that man, he was poking into matters that perhaps he shouldn't have been poking in. Quite confrontational when we first arrived, I will say." And Baralashi says, "Yeah, he kept looking at me as if he wanted something from me."
Curious, what could he have wanted? I mean, he's a ranger of the north. They are a people who live off the land. What physical goods could they want? Naively thinking to himself as he scratches his chin.
Yeah, and Herlinin says, "Goods or something else." And he kind of like looks to Baralass, and she kind of like looks down at the ground. "How many women do you see out on the roads?"
Well, I traveled with women back in the day. However, point taken. Not many of them. There are, however, I will say that Berlinin is in good hands. Or not Berlinin, what's her name?
Everlast.
Barrelass is in. It seems to be in good hands. And smiles at the two of them.
And with that, I'm gonna actually have. So this is gonna be the next couple of days as you travel with this group of individuals. I am going to have you each pick 2 people that you want to investigate during your time here. And this could be like a investigation in as a means. You could decide how this wants to be. It could be direct confrontations. It could be just trying to deduce them out of like conversations with them. It could just be observing on like conversations they're having with others, things like that. Obviously, whatever you choose to do is going to determine like what kind of check it's going to be. And if you want to know what kind of check it's going to be, just ask if you based off of what you want to do. But you have 2 days before you do get to Bree to be able to help figure out like who in this company could have potentially done it over that time for that. And so I will remind you, the people that are in this company are Adoric, so he's the guide, Mirabar, who is the Dorwinian merchant, Herlinin, and then Barrelass as well. The next one is Eowyn, who's the young boy, who's the what is it called, the stable hand, and then there are the dwarves. And so you discover upon your journeys with them, there are the 4 dwarves. The kind of main one is a dwarf by the name of Vig. And then he has a brother named Vogar. And then Vig has 2 sons, Narvig and Narvi, which are the 2 younger ones. Narvi is the youngest of them.
Narvi.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you have anyone in particular, Cole, that Kyrian wants to investigate?
Well, obviously
seems
that
suspicious.
dwarf that gave that comment, whichever one that was.
Yeah, that's gonna be Vig specifically.
Freaking big. Yes, and then I will also investigate Barrelass. Is she the one that
Yeah,
the
the girl.
couple? That's the
Mhm.
girl
Yeah.
of that couple. Yeah, I'll
Mhm.
investigate her.
Okay. Valinith, who are you wanting to investigate?
Yeah. Well, he's curious. He does want to talk to Herlin a bit.
Mm-hmm.
About things, see if he can learn anything that Kyrian can't learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually Adoric, the guide, just to see if he knows any like general information about the area, in particular with like strange happenings and strange deaths, and just kind of asking about those things about the area since Valinith doesn't know. So
Kalofir is going to investigate. He's curious about the dwarves and their ongoings, and so he's gonna try to learn a little bit more about the 2 younger dwarves. So Narvi and Narvig. He's gonna try to investigate them a little bit, which leaves. I'm gonna let between the remaining ones, which are Mirabar from
Eowyn.
Dorwinian, Eowyn, the Breelander, and then I believe Vogar is the other dwarf.
Ogar.
I'm gonna leave the rest up to Theodric when he is, but I think there is a good place for today to end our session, so you can start kind of getting your thoughts around like questions and stuff. Maybe you want to start asking them in the next couple of weeks. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and thoughts on today's session. It was a investigative session today, and so I'm curious on your thoughts and your thoughts going forward too about any hunches or anything you have, because I'm actually kind of curious about that too. So you can go ahead. I am listening. I will be right back and go use the restroom real quick, but I am listening. So let's go ahead and start with you, Dane.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was thinking my noodle was going the whole time. It's just really trying to put two and two together. Valinith is convinced it's some sort of supernatural something. I have a sneaking suspicion. Again, overgame just based off of hearing last session. Barrelass has to do something with it, considering the fact that she admitted that cold when she left. It came from her. And so whether or not that's her directly or maybe some sort of spirit that's attached to her, I have a feeling that might be a even with her knowing or not knowing what's going on, I have a feeling that she may be a prime suspect. So that's astute, Cole, for picking her. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot to go over. We had a lot of checks, and I think we rolled pretty well in the checks that we have going forward. However, I feel like we still don't really know a whole ton about what's going on. So I'm curious to see what the next few sessions hold for us and what we do end up learning. So that's my thoughts, Cole.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of confusing evidence and trying to make sense of it. Lots of mystery. But yes, I also, Barrelass, the fact that she was like, I don't want it to be stolen and all of that, and then the fact that he had something in his hand, I just feel like you said, I think there's something, either a spirit that has attached to her, or she in some way, this brooch is cursed, or there does seem to be some supernatural element, or element of the shadow, or and I know there wasn't really like shadow in it, but like something that is out of the ordinary. Maybe she's a witch. I don't know.
Yeah, seriously.
You have to weigh her to see if she weighs lighter than a duck.
Yes, exactly. So.
Or a really small rock.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm intrigued. It is quite confusing. I mean, it's almost like some spirit or something attacked, and yeah. So
it's the vibe I'm getting too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm actually going to say one of the things about this kind of part of the adventure is between today's session and a couple weeks ago in our last session, like there were a lot of like pretty key checks that were made to help you guys get to the point that you are. There is a lot that maybe some other companies would have a lot more vague ambiguity, like you mentioned, like especially with a lot of Kyrion's checks today, like you were able to like do a very good sweep of just like getting the information that like pretty much everything. And so I will say that like you really didn't leave too many stones unturned at the Forsaken Inn, if any at all. And so like you are set with a very good set of evidences and cues, whether you know it or not, going forward. So as far as like the whole company, you guys are doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm convinced it's not just a dwarf being like, I hate that guy, and then just going and murdering him. I'm convinced it is something more dubious afoot, whether the the company knows it or not, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
There you go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. No, this is like one of those sessions where it's like, when it comes to like investigations and like murder and like that kind of stuff, I know it can be like very like skill check heavy. There's a decent amount of role playing stuff that's involved as well, but I am genuinely curious on how I don't know, like how you guys feel like and stuff on like the pacing of things kind of go, because it sucks to like there's like a balance between like lingering too much on something and also giving you guys enough time to get all the information that you need, if that makes sense. And so like it's always that balance that's kind of like a little bit weird. And as far as like kind of with this adventure, we probably could have gone for a little bit longer, but I'm like, this is probably like figuring out like what the good stopping point is before like kind of this next step, which is kind of more of like the investigation part of the adventure is. And so
I'm curious, could we have prevented his death?
one thing that I would say is I don't know if you remember last session, but one of the reasons you were able to discern as much as you were, Kyrian, is because you got that nat 20 for
my perception check. Yeah.
And so no, I will say this: that's part of the adventure. If he dies.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
Basically, you would have.
Yeah, I was.
That would have been the roll to determine, and you got the nat 20, and so it's basically like the start to whatever this unfolds in this adventure is like it has to be revolved around this one event. So the murders
Would it have been
but figuring out what like all the information that you have,
and all that.
that's what comes out of that. So
Would it have been possible just to completely ignore it and just go and not
100%.
even
100%.
Yeah, that was interesting because I think we were both ready to be just like, well, he's gone and he just went somewhere and let's just continue on with the adventure. I know I was kind of like that.
That has like repercussions like later. And so like all the decisions that you make in like the grand scheme of like the entire like narrative as it were, like the leaving no stone unturned is it's always like I think it's better to err on that side. Because once you like kind of do that, then like maybe some questions that like come up later start to make sense. Where like obviously like a dead man, like someone's gonna eventually find him in the well. Like Jack is gonna go down there and be like, ugh, why does this taste so I mean, it's probably gonna be like that again, but that body was full.
I'll tell you though, I really do feel like a lot of the answers will come from Theodric. I know he rolled very poorly, and I rolled poorly in trying to deduce what was about his dream. But I'm also convinced that his dream has something to do with this. Yeah, it has something to do with this. So curious to see if we find anything out regarding that. So
yeah, no, I'm excited. This adventure and the way that it's lined out without giving too much away is there's a lot of moving parts in it. And I'm very excited to see like how you guys deal with each one of them, just using like your kind of like intellect to be able to kind of like deduce. I know like when we're playing like Everlast, Max is always like, I don't want to put myself into like my character and that kind of stuff. But it's like if you think about it, like your thoughts are your character's thoughts. Like not everything has to be hidden behind a role. Like if you actually have like actual like thoughts about like what it could be, go based off of your hunches, because that's just like naturally speaking. Basically, like the way you look at checks is if it's usually a check has to do with like an exterior factor, never really anything interiorly. So like your own thoughts are your own thoughts, and you can always bring those to the table. Or whatnot. And so like it's like whether or not like what is that person thinking? Then it's like, okay, make a check for it. Or like a perception thought, like let me reveal something to you to help gain something from this thought. But your thoughts are your thoughts. So always like if you are like like for example at the end of the session you're like, well, Barrelass, like clearly it's something we've revolved around her. Like you can take that into your without having to be like, would my character know that? It's like, well, like the events have led you to think this thus far, and so play it like that way if you're there. And so I'm not too worried about being like, should my character know this? Because it's just these are the things that are uncovering. This is why I think it's good to like chat after streams too, to be able to figure out like what your guys' thoughts are on some of this and kind of like going forward. So everybody kind of gets in kind of like the same boat. As far as like the metagaming and stuff, like there's that, but I think you guys are pretty good with it. Anything else? Dane, do you have any announcements?
Yeah, so the only stream we have left for the week, I believe on Thursday, Friday Kyle's time, Kyle's gonna be continuing his playthrough of Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth. It's been really fun. It's a beautiful game. Those of you who haven't seen it, it's like, it's crazy how nice like the Final Fantasy games these look. Yeah, man. It's really good. So come join Kyle for that. Cole, are you and Max this next weekend doing Coalforge Great Axe?
Yes, on the 8th.
Cool. And that will be continuing Getting Over It. And yeah, so come join them for that time. Again, just let me know what time you guys plan on doing it, and then I can put that in the Discord. As far as like the month of March in general, guys, there's a lot going on in the month of March, in particular revolving the Everlast trading card game. So on the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, is when the Kickstarter is going to be going live for the first two sets, the Raising of Helix and the Heroes of the West, as well as the 4 EX battle decks. So those of you who are local to Colorado, we're going to be having a bunch of events all over Colorado in the month of March and April to learn how to play the game. It's free to for everyone to join, and once we get those event dates nailed down a little bit, they're going to be going up onto the website. Website's the best place to check on things, whether or not it's the how to play video, whether or not it's the deck spotlights that are out there. We have a bunch of content up on the actual website, as well as our YouTube channel, Fantasy Forge Studios, so go check those out. Aside from that, some wonderful ways to be able to support Everlast. Kyle, do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, we have Coffee of the Realms, which is our coffee here that is delicious. This is the Helix blend, but it is roasts from dark roast, medium, light roast, everything in between, and it has official Everlast art on it. And as well, if coffee ain't your thing, you can get coffee flavor candle or a different candle scent. We have many of them, and they have official Everlast art as well. This one's Sukai Mist. It kind of has more of this is actually a good one for like the springtime, because it's like a clean linens kind of like lavender scent, which is really, really nice. And then obviously I have my old-time favorite coffee candle, which is so good. But all the proceeds help to create the art of Everlast. And so that is how we've been able to make the art for the TCG, and then also for the upcoming Tabletop RPG as well. Yeah, we are really kind of in this go time, final stages. In a matter of a week and a half, this thing's launching on Kickstarter, and so I'm so excited. Hopefully you guys are pumped too. The final iterations of everything have come out, and we are ready for the first set. And hopefully you guys, if you're curious about it, that's why we have the printed play stuff on the website, so you can print it off and play it yourself, whether it's the play mats or the actual decks. You can kind of get a little bit of what the Everlast table or trading card game is about. The combat system is very similar to the Tabletop RPG, and so everything kind of ties into each other, which is very exciting. But yeah, other than that,
and if you have any friends or family too who you think would be very interested, the one thing that can't be understated about the Everlast TCG, or just the world of Everlast in general, is we're trying to take back the world of fantasy to bring it back to its origins, which is a more Tolkien-esque version of that, speaking of Lord of the Rings, where God is at the center of it. And that's super important when it comes to this. And so, especially if you love fantasy and you love enjoying the world of fantasy, but you're kind of sick of the modern world's take on it, it's a wonderful harkening back to those themes, those Tolkien themes. So especially if you have friends who like board games, card games, nerd fantasy culture, please consider checking out the Kickstarter. And I mean, the artworks are amazing, the game's really fun to play, and if you donate to the Kickstarter, that's the only way to be able to get the first edition versions of the packs.
Yeah,
so everything that's going to be released
run is the Kickstarter print run. The first print is going to be the first edition cards, and all of them have the first edition on the bottom right corner of the cards, and then the packs, the specific pack arts and booster boxes are also special first editions as well for that. And then the unlimited run will be everything that's printed after the initial Kickstarter run.
Yeah. So especially if you want some really unique parts of the Everlast history. I mean, it is truly Everlast history. It's the very first really anything that we have out that's official Everlast. It's not partnered with anything. That's a really good way to be able to get something is from the Kickstarter, and it's also discounted off of the MSRP price. So if you donate to the Kickstarter, you're getting it for cheaper than you would get it in stores. So consider that as well. So you get some pretty rare stuff, but then it's also cheaper than if you bought it in stores. So.
And we'll have some pretty sweet stretch goals. So once we hit our initial limit, so I guess we could start talking a little bit about the Kickstarter.
Yep.
So the Kickstarter, our goal is $10,000 to just fund it. And the way that Kickstarter works is once the game is funded, then everybody is guaranteed to get their stuff. If it doesn't get funded, then you don't get any money taken from you or anything. Basically, it's a failed Kickstarter launch, and then we can go ahead and re-up it. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I think $10,000 is a low enough number for us to be able to pretty easily reach that. Once we reach our goal, we have a specific, essentially these things called stretch goals, which for every amount after the initial goal is reached, you get extra stuff. I won't reveal all of that quite yet, but there are 2 specific promo cards that you will get, that everybody will get from just completing once we complete and hit that $10,000 mark, and it's the only way you'll be able to get these cards. They are actually, I can just show them because they're really sweet. Since you guys are here,
Yeah, Cole, you've seen them, I think.
let me find.
It's all good. It's on the spot.
It's on the spot. This is here's one. And then the second one. I have this small stack, and it's somewhere in this small stack. Oh, so, they are very specific cards. They're actually quite powerful too. We have the Fate Weaver, which is he's a legendary EX creature. And for those who don't know, hey, Fate Weaver, that's basically the DM. So the Fate Weaver, and then you've got Hubris, the Wraith of Malvish. And so it's kind of difficult to see, but they're in kind of like a sleeve. But yes, those are specific cards that you can only get if you've donated to the Kickstarter, and we reach our goal. And so that'll be the only way you'll be able to get those cards ever. It'll only have the one print, and so yeah, it's pretty exciting. So that's a kind of fun thing you can add to your collection for that. And so, but other than that, we have Daisnaki. They're a Japanese sweets and luxury treats company. They have a number of Japanese snack boxes, from the Omakase box, which has popular Japanese snacks, to their Omakase Luxe box, which has more traditional Japanese snacks. If you do order from them, say that Fantasy Forge sent you a checkout. That's how we get credit for that, and we make our way towards our next free Omakase box giveaway, which we've already done 2. And if you also put your Twitch name at checkout as well, you'll get credit towards that next free Omakase box giveaway, meaning your chances are going to be a little bit higher to be able to win something, which is exciting. Their free boxes and just like their boxes in general are delicious and really good. And if you can't visit Japan and you don't have the funds to do that, it's kind of the next best way to do it. They have free international shipping as well. And by supporting them, you're supporting a small family business in Tokyo, Japan, and us here at Fantasy Forge Studios, which is awesome. Yeah, I think that's about it. Is that it on your guys' end?
Yeah. Yeah, check out the Discord. That's where we put up the weekly schedule for everything. Check out our YouTube channel. Check out the ChristForge YouTube channel. So those of you who want to grow in prayer, we got different kinds of prayer up there. I need to figure out how to kind of go about doing ChristForge, because I've realized I've been too busy to kind of be a youth minister around that kind of thing. So I'm gonna have to like restructure how I do ChristForge every week. But at the very least, every Monday we do have at the very least prayer time. So recently we've been doing the joyful through the glorious mysteries, and then we've also been doing some devotionals, which include Divine Mercy Chaplet and all other kinds of prayers. So feel free to join us, especially if you're just in need for some time with God and some prayer time. It's a wonderful way to do that, but a lot of those resources are available on the ChristForge YouTube channel as well. So yeah, that's all I have.
Cool. Let's go ahead and, speaking of prayer, closing prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Jesus, my Savior and Redeemer, Son of the living God, behold, we kneel before you and offer you our reparation. We would make amends for all the blasphemies uttered against your holy name, for all the injuries done to you in the Blessed Sacrament, for all the irreverence shown towards your Immaculate Virgin Mother, for all the slanders spoken against your spouse, the Holy Catholic Church. O Jesus, who has said, if you ask the Father anything in my name, he will give it to you. We pray and beseech you for all our brethren who are in danger of sin. Shield them from every temptation to fall away from the true faith. Save those who are even now standing on the brink of the abyss. To all of them, give light and knowledge of the truth, courage and strength for the conflict with evil, perseverance in faith and active charity. For this do we pray, most merciful Jesus, in your name unto God the Father, with whom you live and reign in the unity of the Holy Spirit, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Happy Fat Tuesday for those in the West. Happy Mardi Gras for those, or not, same thing. Happy Ash Wednesday for those here in the East and everywhere in between. Let's have an amazing start to Lent. Know that I'm praying for you. Pray for me, and make sure you pray for each other. I will see you all on Friday for some more, some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and also this weekend for some Coal Forge Great Axe. It'll be awesome. See you guys all then. Bye.